Your contact with this information is no accident. Your search for truth and deeper meaning has led you here. But remember, the truth is not outside you. It comes from deep within you. There is more to this reality than you are being told. And we are all secretly asking ourselves the same questions. Who are we? Why are we here? And what is our destiny?
From the earliest stage I can remember, I was having dreams of flying cylinders in my backyard at the house I grew up in. And these cylinders did not have wings, and they would sort of flutter in the air. Interestingly enough, I also had many meetings with an old man who seemed to be connected to these flying cylinders. The old man had gray hair and a gray beard. He had a robe. He wore sandals. This man had such a connection to me that I actually would cry when I woke up from these dreams. In these dreams, he was telling me that a stupendous event was going to happen in humanity's future within my lifetime, that it would lead to some sort of evolutionary leap for us in what it means to be human. And he also told me that I would have a very key role to play in this awakening. He also said that I would be needing to learn as much about science as possible, and also he gave me a keen interest in UFOs and ancient civilizations. I was taught to spend a lot of time looking into the stone monuments around the world. He told me that was very important. He also wanted me to understand what these craft were that this phenomena was emanating from. A very powerful event happened when I was 5 years old, where I woke up in the middle of the night and I was floating over my own body. My body was alive. I was floating over myself in bed and I could see myself sleeping. But interestingly enough, my astral form, or ghost body, as I thought of it at the time, had the same pajamas on that I was wearing in the bed. So I'm literally looking down at myself, seeing myself sleep, and I then floated down the hallway, feet first. I felt as if there were voices talking. I felt a very strong energetic presence. And then I stopped at the stairwell that I would normally be walking downstairs through. And at that point, on its own, my body turned 90 degrees and then tilted up on a diagonal angle. And I started to drift down the stairs. As I then surged with fear, thinking, oh my God, I'm dying, the experience suddenly terminated and I was not able to go any farther. However, I've come to believe that most likely I did have more experience after that moment in the stairwell, but that I was spliced back into my body without the memory being retained consciously. As I grew older, this out-of-body experience compelled me to try to get another chance. So for 2 years after this happened, every night I prayed to get another chance to fly out of my body and meet the old man in person, quote-unquote, instead of in a dream. After 2 years, I broke down and told my mother what happened, and she was progressive enough to tell me that what had happened to me was one of a series of things called extrasensory perception, or ESP. So literally, I'm a 7-year-old kid, and I went underneath the stairwell in the basement of my house, and there was a whole row of paperback books, one of which said ESP in big capital letters. The title was How to Make ESP Work For You by Harold Sherman. I started reading the book. I was in 2nd grade. Most kids were reading Clifford the Big Red Dog. I did not understand many of the words, so I had to use context, but I was able to get through the book. For me, Reading people's minds, knowing what they were thinking, that was commonplace. I was very aware of what people were going to say before it came out of their mouth. I was very attentive to the eyes, the body language, the ambiance, and the nuance of a particular environment I was in. All of these things in my early childhood seemed to be anomalous until you started talking to certain insiders, at which point you realize this fits in with a greater mosaic. And it suggests that, like many others on Earth, I'm not suggesting that I'm unique here, there was extensive extraterrestrial contact that still to this day I have not been able to recover the memories from. Everyone in the UFO community is faced with a seemingly outrageous challenge to try to make sense out of the enormity of material that there is to study. How do you effectively navigate a course through an incredible body of material that encompasses many different ancient civilizations that have megalithic architecture or giant stones? How do you bring in the element of secret societies and the occult ceremonies that are taking place within these societies? What is the relationship between those secret societies and the governance of our modern world at the elite level? Is there a deep state? Is there some sort of supranational cult that is actually controlling the world? And then, how does this knowledge gel with the concept of a spontaneous quantum leap in human evolution that could be coming our way? A good starting point for this esoteric investigation is to rethink everything that we thought we knew about history.
My name is Michael Cremo. I'm a researcher in human origins and antiquity, and that has led me into other questions related to human origins, evidence that goes beyond the timelines that modern science now accepts. Some people use the term OOPArts. That means out-of-place artifacts. According to what most scientists now believe, humans existed in a very primitive state for many hundreds of thousands of years. Human ancestors like Australopithecus and Homo erectus, Neanderthal, and so on. They think, according to the standard ideas, that the first humans like us came into existence about 200,000 years ago. And they think the first civilized humans began to exist about 10,000 years ago. But if you look at some of these out-of-place artifacts, you can see some really amazing things. Some of them are pretty extreme.
We have this very interesting area in Africa, and this area is called Klerksdorp.
One of the more extreme examples were the Klerksdorp spheres. They're made of a naturally occurring type of iron ore called hematite.
And these spheres, in multiple cases, have a very clear structure of 3 lines that are all parallel to each other, inscribed directly along the equator of the sphere.
To me, that opens up the possibility that these metallic objects with these parallel grooves that go around the center of each one were made by someone with human-like intelligence. What's really interesting is they're found in mineral deposits in South Africa that are about 2 billion years old.
They are clearly artificial. They are clearly not a natural geological formation. They were carved by someone. This opens up another huge category of information, which is what has been referred to as the ancient builder race.
My name is Corey Good. I'm a secret space program whistleblower and a extraterrestrial contactee. Because of my access and clearance in the programs, I was able to learn a lot more than what is generally available about the history of our solar system. So during the time that I had this unprecedented access, I also started to look deeper into the history of our cosmos, and I started to find little bits and pieces about an ancient race that they refer to as the ancient builder race. And they called them that because they knew nothing about them. They had found ancient structures all throughout our solar system and other solar systems that were around 2 billion years old.
This is also a distinctly fascinating correlation because for many years I have found connections between what the insiders are telling me about the secret space program and a unique body of material called the Law of One. The Law of One material claims to have been generated by extraterrestrials through a telepathic communication. I lived with the people who generated this for 2 years. Their group is called L&L Research. The source of the Law of One claims that it originated on the planet Venus when it was Earth-like. They are similar to us, as in third density, or third dimensional if you will, and they said that they date back 2.6 billion years ago. Now that is amazing, because we didn't know about the Klerksdorp spheres back in 1981 when this came through, and yet the dating they gave in the Law of One for when they were third dimensional like us is exactly the same as the geological dating of the Klerksdorp spheres. And best of all, in the Law of One, they said they had a particular affinity for the pyramid shape, and they built it extensively. Therefore, it does appear that the solution to the mystery of who is the ancient builder race is that this is the group now identifying itself as Ra, the group that gave us the Law of One material, the same group that ultimately contacted Corey Goode, appearing as blue avians, now appearing in 6th density, billions of years later, after they were like us. They are apparently the most evolved extraterrestrial group that has ever been involved with humanity.
So one of the few things that we do know about this ancient builder race is that they had created this giant defensive grid around this local stellar neighborhood that we're a part of. 52 local stars clustered together. And they had created these giant Death Star types of ships that were the size of moons and planets that set up a grid around the entire local star cluster that prevented any types of intruders from coming in. And this grid was in place and kept our local stellar neighborhood safe from intruders for billions of years.
It does appear, based on